Have you ever, like, finished praying? You know, you say your amen, and then immediately you just feel like you hung up the phone exactly when the other person was trying to say hello.
Oh, man, yeah. It's a beautifully frustrating image, isn't it?
Right. Because you just rattle off your whole list of worries, your requests, maybe like a quick thank you, and then boom, click. See you tomorrow.
Exactly. We so often just treat prayer like this, like a voicemail we're leaving for the universe, rather than actually stepping into a live two-way call.
Yeah, and that is exactly what we are getting into today. Welcome to the Living Hopecast, where we are doing a deep dive into how to transform that exact moment.
I'm very excited for this one.
Me too. So today we are exploring a really fascinating message. It's called Sift, and it was presented by Jeremy and Anna Payton on Sunday, June 7th at Living Hope Community Church.
Yeah, and the whole mission of our deep dive today is to really unpack the mechanics they talk about in the message. How to take prayer from being this, one-way monologue or treating God like a magic 8-ball and turning it into an actual dynamic conversation.
Yes, a two-way street. And really quick, just some housekeeping for you listening. If you want to actually see how all these concepts played out in the room, there is a link right in the description of this deep dive to watch the full video recording of the message.
Yeah, highly recommend checking that out.
For sure. You can also find it at the Living Hope webpage, and they have it up on YouTube, Facebook, and on the church app.
Perfect. So let's just get right into the framework, right?
Let's do it.
Because before you can even start decoding this, supposed two-way communication, the speakers established this baseline requirement. They introduced this concept called the Church of Two, or CO2.
Right, which, on its face, it sounds incredibly simple, just two people.
It is simple, yeah, but the historical and biblical context they provide in the message gives it a lot of weight.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the argument they make is that this two-person framework goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. The whole narrative there is that God looks at Adam and explicitly says, it isn't good for him to be isolated.
Yeah, the fundamental design from the very beginning was just built for twos.
Right. And the message points out how this pattern repeats. Like, when Jesus sent out his followers, they weren't sent as these isolated individuals. They were sent in pairs.
Right. They went 2 by 2.
Exactly. It's presented as this really intimate foundational building block. Like, connecting with another person is intrinsically tied to connecting with God.
I appreciate the sort of serene spiritual theory of that. The mental image of two people deeply connecting is lovely. But if you're listening to this and you've ever actually tried to force a spiritual moment with your family, you know the reality is usually just total chaos.
Oh, 100%. It's messy.
It is so messy. And I love that the presenters don't shy away from that at all. They share this incredibly relatable, hilarious anecdote in the message about something they affectionately call boat church.
Oh my gosh, the infamous boat church. It is such a perfect reality check.
It really is. Picture this. The parents are just desperately trying to get through a simple one-page family devotional with their young kids.
Which is hard enough on dry land.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to ensure they have a captive audience, they literally trap the kids on a boat. They take them out into the water, and they completely turn off the motor so no one can escape.
That is amazing.
Right. But even with nowhere to run, they describe the whole experience as feeling like herding kittens. Because the water's right there, the kids just want to go swim, and the parents are basically just rushing through the material so everyone can jump in.
Which just perfectly illustrates the friction of human nature, Implementing any kind of intentional practice with other people rarely looks like some beautiful Renaissance painting.
No, it's loud, it's frustrating, it's super awkward.
But the presentation beautifully contrasts that chaotic memory of boat church with how the practice actually evolved for them over time.
Yeah, fast forward a bit.
Right. So Jeremy and Anna's 22-year-old son, Isaac, eventually saw the value in what his parents were doing. And he actively asked to join them, which turned their CO2 into a CO3.
That transition from, literally trapping a kid on a boat to having an adult son voluntarily opt in is just amazing.
It's huge.
And the practical mechanics of how they pull this off today is really what caught my attention in the message. Because, it would be so easy for a family with a 22-year-old to just say, well, our work schedules are different, our social lives don't align, we just don't have the time.
Oh, that's the excuse most of us use, right?
For sure. But they didn't let logistics kill the connection. They actually set up a dedicated Google chat.
Yeah.
And they used 3-minute voice memos to just check in with each other every day. They took this requirement for intimacy and adapted it to fit the weird, synchronous reality of modern life.
It's a brilliant adaptation. But, and they make this clear in the message, Creating the space is really only step one.
Right, you need a structure.
Exactly. The message breaks this connection down into rounds. So round one is simply checking in with each other. And to do this effectively, they suggest using tools like actual emotion wheels to identify feelings and picking from a menu of grace to process those emotions together.
Okay, I have to jump in here, because if you're listening to this right now, your cynical alarm bells might be ringing a little bit.
Oh, I bet.
Mine certainly were. Like scheduling voice memos, pulling out a laminated menu of grace to figure out how to talk to your own family.
It sounds rigid.
It sounds a bit like we're corporatizing intimacy, you know? Like, why do we need a menu to tell us how to comfort someone we love? Shouldn't that just be organic?
Yeah, that is the natural pushback. It feels highly structured. But let's dig into the psychology of why that structure is actually a total lifesaver, especially when emotions are running high.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about your own life for a second. When someone you care about comes to you in this state of intense vulnerability, like maybe they are weeping or just deeply furious about something, what is your immediate physiological reaction?
Absolute panic. Honestly. My brain instantly goes into overdrive trying to fix the problem, or I just freeze up because I'm terrified I'm going to say the wrong thing and make their pain worse.
Precisely. Your anxiety spikes, and
Right.
when anxiety spikes, your capacity for genuine connection just shuts down entirely.
Oh, yeah. Fight, flight, or fix-it mode.
Exactly. So the menu of grace concept, it acts as this emotional scaffolding to bypass all that anxiety.
Okay, I see.
In round one, the person who is upset actually gets to define the rules of engagement. They can look at this menu and explicitly say, hey, I just need you to sit here and be with me. Or, I'd like you to pray for me. Or, please share some advice. Or even, I need some ongoing coaching on this.
Oh, wow. That completely shifts the paradigm. Because you're no longer frantically searching your own brain for the right words. You're literally just reading off a menu they already handed you.
Yeah.
It's like setting the terms of service for a really difficult conversation.
It entirely removes the guesswork. The person sharing gets exactly the type of support they need in that specific moment, and the person listening knows exactly how to succeed in supporting them.
That's brilliant.
It creates this deeply secure emotional baseline, and the argument made in the presentation is that you absolutely need that secure launch pad before you can successfully move to round two.
Which is the practice of actually sitting in the quiet and listening for God.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the core mystery of the whole message. Once you have that emotional baseline set, you sit in silence. But how do you actually hear anything? And even more fundamentally, and I love that the message tackles this, who even has the right to expect an answer?
That's the big question.
Because they address this really fascinating point. Can God speak to someone who isn't even a believer?
And according to the theological framework they present in the message, the answer is an absolute, unequivocal yes.
Which totally shatters the assumption that there's some, I don't know, exclusive VIP line that's only reserved for the incredibly devout.
Yeah, and the speakers point to a very universal human experience to back this up. They ask the audience to recall that moment, often when you were a kid, right? Long before anyone explicitly sat you down and taught you complex moral philosophy, where you just did something genuinely wrong.
Oh, right.
Like maybe you stole a candy bar or told a really significant lie. If you're listening, you probably know that exact physical reaction.
Your stomach drops.
Yes, your stomach drops, your skin tingles, you get the sudden heavy sickness in your chest.
Oh, yeah, that internal compass that just screams, you crossed a line, even if literally no one caught you.
Exactly. The message makes the case that this internal compass, that physical feeling of conviction, is the Holy Spirit communicating. It's described as a universal broadcast.
A universal broadcast. I like that.
And to support this, they pull several really compelling examples from the biblical narratives where God completely bypasses the religious elite to speak directly to people way outside the faith.
Yeah, those examples in the message were striking.
Yeah.
Like giving intense prophetic dreams to pagan Egyptian pharaohs.
Right.
Or hijacking a corrupt prophet named Balaam so that his attempted curses physically turn into blessings for Israel.
Yeah, that one is wild. And there's also the really visceral example of Pontius Pilate's wife.
Oh, true.
Here is a pagan Roman woman completely disconnected from the religious traditions of the day, who is struck with intense anxiety and disruptive dreams about Jesus' innocence right before the crucifixion.
Wow.
So the overarching point of the message is that this communication is not restricted to a specific demographic. It's always broadcasting.
Okay, so if the broadcast is always playing, the real question is, how do we tune our specific receiver?
Right.
And that brings us to the titular tool of the message, the Sift acronym, S-I-F-T. This is the decoder ring they suggest using to categorize how these messages actually arrive.
Let's break it down.
Yeah, let's start with the physical layer. The S stands for sensations.
Right. So here we're talking about tactile physical indicators.
It's basically when your body reacts to a spiritual reality. The speakers describe it as like a sudden warmth in your chest, a tangible quietness settling over your shoulders, or maybe a sudden aching or tingling.
Yeah.
But, okay, what separates this from just, say, a random muscle spasm or standing in a drafty room?
Well, to illustrate the difference, the message provides this incredible narrative from Luke chapter 8.
Okay.
Jesus is walking through this massive, suffocating crowd. People are jostling him, bumping into him from every possible direction. It's just chaotic, shoulder-to-shoulder contact. But suddenly, a sick woman reaches out and touches just the fringe of his robe.
And amidst all those hundreds of physical bumps, he completely stops.
He stops because he registers a distinct sensation of healing power leaving him. It wasn't a thought. It was a physical sensation that energy had transferred. The point the speakers are making is that Jesus felt a qualitative difference in that specific touch. He recognized a physical cue as a spiritual communication, and he actually paid attention to it.
Okay, so it's sort of the difference between like static electricity and a purposeful tack on the shoulder.
Exactly.
Okay, so a physical sensation is one way this internal receiver picks up a signal. The message moves to a totally different medium next. The I in Sift stands for images.
Right, moving from the body to the mind's eye.
Exactly. These are described as mental pictures, little movies playing in your head, or even something akin to augmented reality where you might like visualize a thought bubble over a situation.
Yeah, and I can practically hear the skepticism from you listening because my own pushback was pretty immediate on this one.
No, completely.
Like mental movies, cartoon thought bubbles. Doesn't that just sound like an overactive imagination? How on earth do you distinguish between profound spiritual communication and, you just daydreaming because you're bored?
It is absolutely the most common hurdle people face with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the counter-argument from the message is just incredibly elegant.
What do they say?
They pose a really simple theological premise. If God is the literal inventor of the human imagination, why wouldn't he use the very canvas he created to communicate?
Wow. That is a profound shift in perspective.
Right.
Because modern society often just dismisses imagination as something strictly for children or maybe like eccentric artists. We view it as a distraction from reality. But this framework reclaims the imagination as a primary spiritual antenna.
Precisely. And they use the story of Jesus meeting a man named Nathaniel to really ground this idea.
Oh, right.
Yeah, before they ever physically cross paths, Jesus tells Nathaniel, "I saw you when you were sitting under the fig tree." Now, physically, Jesus wasn't there.
Right.
But internally, the Holy Spirit had given Jesus a clear image, like a literal mental picture in his imagination of where Nathaniel was and exactly what he was doing. Jesus trusted that mental image and acted on it, which absolutely floored Nathaniel.
That's incredible. So we've moved from the physical body to the mind's eye. The third layer, the F, stands for feelings.
Yes.
Now, obviously, we all have feelings constantly. I might be feeling hungry or tired right now. How is this different?
The message notes, this is specifically when you experience an emotion that doesn't logically fit your current personal state. It's the concept of God actually sharing his own emotions with you.
I love this concept. It's like borrowing someone else's emotional battery pack.
That's a great way to think about it. The presentation highlights a brilliant example of this exact nuance from Matthew 14.
Okay.
So Jesus had just received devastating news. His cousin, John the Baptist, had been brutally murdered.
That's heavy.
Very.
Yeah.
Humanly speaking, he is exhausted and completely heartbroken. So he gets in a boat to withdraw and just grieve privately.
As anyone would.
But when his boat lands, there is a massive, demanding crowd of thousands waiting for him. Now, logically, if you're in that situation, what feeling should be dominant?
Oh, you'd be frustrated, irritated. You'd want to tell everyone to just go home because you need a minute to process your own grief.
Exactly. But instead, the text says that when he saw the crowd, he was moved with compassion.
Wow.
And the analysis provided by the speakers here is so crucial. They point out that this compassion wasn't coming from Jesus's human capacity in that moment. He was tapped out.
Right.
Instead, he allowed the Father's feeling of compassion for these hurting people to override his own intense human grief. A feeling was shared with him, and he let it lead.
To have the self-awareness to identify, like, the surge of compassion isn't coming from my own reserves right now. This is being externally provided. That is powerful.
It really is. Which brings us to the final letter, T, for thoughts. So we've gone from body to imagination to emotion and now to pure intellect.
Yeah, and these are defined in the message as spontaneous, highly precise thoughts that just drop into your consciousness out of nowhere.
The message described these in a way that really clicks for me. They called them matrix-style downloads.
Yeah.
You know that phenomenon where an incredibly complex thought hits you in a split second, but the insight is so dense it would take you like 20 minutes to actually articulate it to someone else.
Yeah, it's like a sudden leap of intuition that is way faster and smarter than what your logical brain could have deduced in that moment.
Exactly. And the perfect example of this in the text, according to the presentation, is Jesus talking to the Samaritan woman at the well.
Okay, set the scene.
They are just having a normal conversation, and suddenly Jesus receives this highly specific, spontaneous thought. He tells her she has had 5 husbands.
5. Not a few, not a lot. Specifically 5.
Right. And he didn't grow up in her village. He had no natural way of knowing her relationship history.
That specific detail was just dropped into his mind, but the message points out something really vital about why that thought was delivered in the first place.
What's that?
Well, typically, if we suddenly knew a dark or hidden detail about someone's past, human nature would use it to judge or condemn them.
Oh, for sure. It becomes weaponized information.
Exactly. But here, that specific supernatural thought was used to bring her absolute freedom. It proved to her that she was fully seen and intimately known without being rejected. And that realization just revolutionized her life.
Okay, so we have this comprehensive framework. Sensations, images, feelings, thoughts. S-I-F-T, Sift. But the speakers make it very clear that knowing the acronym is only half the battle.
Yeah, the real challenge is the rule of practice. The message insists upon for actually doing this, which is don't edit, just capture.
And this is where the theory just hits the brick wall of human psychology.
Big time.
They share this incredible story in the message of the Sean Hyatt family implementing this practice. They sit down in the living room, put a single piece of paper and a pen on the coffee table, and they just listen.
Simple enough.
What happens next is fascinating. The 10-year-old and 7-year-old boys felt they received a thought to buy clothes for a specific orphan they sponsor at the Tupelo Children's Mansion.
Which is a very specific, actionable prompting.
Super specific. But the best part is the 1-year-old daughter. She can't write, obviously, so she's just scribbling with crayons while everyone else is trying to be, deeply spiritual.
Typical toddler.
Right. The older brothers were complaining, saying she wasn't listening, just drawing. But when the parents actually looked at her scribbles, they realized her crayon sketches had a clear thematic connection to what the rest of the family was hearing.
Oh, wow. Which just perfectly illustrates the core psychological trap the message warns against, which is gatekeeping the Holy Spirit.
Let's unpack that, because if you've ever tried anything like this, you know exactly how incredibly strong that impulse to edit is.
Oh, it's our prefrontal cortex trying to protect us from looking foolish.
Yes.
We sit in silence, a thought or an image pops into our head, and instantly our logical brain engages. We demand, like 100% absolute certainty that this thought is from the almighty creator of the universe before we dare to write it down or say it out loud.
We want a notarized certificate of authenticity for a thought bubble. We sit there thinking, was that God, or did I just eat too much pizza last night?
Exactly. But if you demand that level of logical certainty in the moment, you will completely paralyze the process. You will edit out everything. The profound advice given by the speakers in the message is this: messing up isn't failure, giving up is.
I really want that to sink in for you listening. Messing up isn't failure, giving up is. That is so good.
It really is. The rule is to capture the thought the exact millisecond it hits you. Don't analyze it, don't judge it, don't filter it, just put it on the paper.
Just get it out.
Right. You capture it immediately, and then, and this is the crucial safety net, you test it later. You bring it to your trusted group, you test it against the character of God, you test it against your foundational texts. But in the actual moment of listening, your only job is to be a receiver, not an editor.
Okay, so to bring this all together.
Yeah.
This whole Sift process, this Church of Two, it isn't about becoming some flawless, levitating mystic who never gets a signal crossed.
Not at all.
It is entirely about making space embracing the awkwardness, and inviting yourself into the messiness of genuine connection.
It is meant to be a safe place to practice, which inherently means it's a safe place to get it wrong sometimes.
Which reminds me of my absolute favorite anecdote from the entire presentation.
The puppy.
The puppy. They talked about two mentors, Alex and Hannah Absalom, who tried this listening exercise with their kids. They all got quiet, listened for a message, and the kids collectively discerned that it was definitively a divine mandate for them to get a puppy.
A very, very convenient piece of revelation.
Right. And the parents had to step in and apply that secondary testing phase. They basically said, yeah, we didn't hear that. We discerned that we would like to sleep.
That is hilarious.
It highlights that sifting through these thoughts, making mistakes, and discerning what is actually a profound spiritual nudge versus what is just a 7-year-old wanting a golden retriever. That's part of the fun. The messiness is part of the relationship.
It really is. And, the message didn't just leave this as theoretical homework. They actually ended by asking the entire congregation to practice it right then and there.
Yes. They asked everyone to sit in total silence for 2 minutes. And the prompt they gave was so gentle, they said, ask God, how do you feel about being with me today?
Just think about the vulnerability of asking that question and actually waiting in the quiet for an answer.
Yeah. And then whatever Sift prompting the people in the room received, a physical sensation, an image, a feeling, a sudden thought, they were asked to text it to an anonymous phone number.
Wow.
No names attached, no fear of judgment, just the raw practice of capturing the message without letting the brain edit it away.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture of your daily life, you start to see how this framework is so much more than just a Sunday morning exercise.
Oh, for sure.
It's a daily tool for resilience. When you actively practice this kind of sifting, you shift your entire posture. Instead of waking up and immediately armoring yourself against a hostile world, protecting your ego, falling into anxious habits, you can walk out into your day feeling anchored.
Yeah.
Because you aren't just leaving a voicemail out into the void. You are actively engaging with a present reality that is offering you real-time feedback through your body, your imagination, your emotions, and your mind.
It completely changes the landscape of just an ordinary Tuesday.
Absolutely.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your week.
Lay it on us.
Think about the days ahead. What if the next time you feel a sudden, inexplicable surge of compassion for a stranger struggling in line at the grocery store, or a vivid, happy memory of an old friend pops into your head out of nowhere? What if that is not just a random firing of synapses? What if it's not just a biological coincidence? What if that is the exact moment the universe's creator is trying to hand you the phone, and all you have to do is pick it up and say hello?
I love that.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Living Hopecast for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.